Imagine never once cutting your hair. No scissors, no razor, no barber at all. For a long stretch of prehistory, that was reality. Hair simply grew, tangled and heavy, without end. Yet at some point, something sharp changed everything. A sharpened blade pressed carefully against a lock of hair. So when did humans first start cutting hair? The answer stretches back further than most expect. Today, we dig through tombs, blades, and ancient art. This is the story of the very first haircut. Stay until the end for the strangest haircut belief of all. In one ancient culture, cutting hair was deeply forbidden. Left uncut, human hair grows for years without stopping. Long, heavy hair created real, practical problems. It could trap lice, dirt, and small insects easily. It could catch on branches during hunting or travel. In hot climates, it trapped heat uncomfortably close. In combat, an enemy could grab it easily. These problems likely pushed early humans toward a solution. Something sharp, capable of trimming length safely. Stone offered the very first practical answer. Early humans shaped stone into remarkably sharp edges. Flint and obsidian could hold an extremely fine edge, sharp enough to slice through hair with ease. Some of these blades date back over 1,000,000 years, originally shaped for cutting meat, hide, and plants. Researchers believe these same tools likely trimmed hair too. Hair itself decays quickly, leaving little direct evidence. So this idea remains a reasonable, careful assumption. Supported by the sharpness and shape of surviving tools. A simple, practical solution, likely used for a very long time. But the clearest evidence comes much later. From Egypt. Ancient Egyptians took personal grooming remarkably seriously. Tombs have revealed finely crafted copper razors, dating back roughly 5,000 years or more. These razors were sharp, precise, and carefully maintained. Many Egyptians, especially men, shaved their heads completely. A shaved head helped avoid heat, sweat, and lice. It also allowed for something else entirely. Wigs. Elaborate wigs were worn over the bare scalp. A shaved head kept the wig cool and comfortable. Wigs themselves were symbols of wealth and status. Priests took this practice even further than most. They shaved their entire bodies, regularly and completely. This was considered essential for religious purity. Barbers held a genuinely respected place in society. Tomb paintings even show barbers working with clients, cutting, shaving, and styling hair with practiced skill. This was skilled, valued work, not a minor task. In ancient Mesopotamia, hair carried enormous social weight. Statues and carvings show elaborately curled hair and beards. Kings especially wore long, carefully arranged, curled beards. Each curl often shaped individually, with great patience. This styling took considerable time, skill, and status. A well-groomed beard signaled power and authority. The opposite was true for those seen as lesser. Shaving someone's head or beard could be deeply humiliating, sometimes used deliberately as a punishment or insult. Losing one's hair, in this context, meant losing status. Hair, quite literally, reflected a person's place in society. In ancient Greece, hair marked important stages of life. Young boys traditionally wore their hair long and uncut. Reaching adulthood came with a significant symbolic act, cutting their hair for the very first time. This cut hair was often offered to the gods, left at a temple as a mark of coming of age, a powerful symbolic transition from childhood into adulthood. In Sparta, hair customs worked in a striking, different way. Spartan boys kept their heads closely shaved throughout training. Only upon becoming full citizens did hair grow long. Long hair in Sparta marked freedom and full status. A striking reversal compared to many neighboring cultures. In ancient Rome, haircuts became a genuine social event. Barbershops, known as tonstronae, buzzed with daily conversation. Men gathered there to trim hair, shave, and socialize. News, gossip, and local opinions all passed through these shops. A young man's first shave carried real ceremonial weight. Known as the depositio barbae, a formal rite of passage. The shaved beard hairs were sometimes carefully preserved, placed in a small box, or offered to the gods. This marked a young man's official entry into adulthood. Roman barbers required real skill, patience, and a steady hand. A single careless slip could cause a painful injury. Skilled barbers were valued, trusted members of the community. Far to the east, an entirely different belief took hold. In ancient China, hair carried deep, sacred meaning. Confucian tradition held that hair was a gift, given by one's parents, and never to be casually cut. Cutting hair carelessly was considered deeply disrespectful, even a small, disrespectful act toward one's own family. Because of this belief, most people grew their hair long, often gathered carefully into a neat, practical topknot. This made haircuts far rarer than in many other cultures. In fact, forced haircutting became a serious punishment. Shaving someone's head against their will was a real legal penalty, a striking contrast to Rome's proud ceremonial first shave. The very same act carried entirely opposite meanings, depending only on which ancient culture you belong to. One haircut tradition, though, appeared again and again worldwide, cutting hair as a visible sign of grief and mourning. In ancient Greece, mourners often cut their hair short, sometimes placing the cutlocks directly upon the grave. In ancient Egypt, mourning rituals included similar haircutting, a visible physical symbol of genuine personal loss. Similar mourning customs appear across many unrelated cultures, from distant corners of the ancient world entirely independently. This suggests something deeply human about the gesture itself, cutting away part of oneself to visibly mark deep loss. A universal language, written not in words, but in hair. Piecing this story together comes with a real challenge. Hair itself rarely survives the passage of thousands of years. It decays, crumbles, and vanishes far faster than bone. This means direct evidence of ancient haircuts is extremely rare. Instead, researchers rely on tools, art, and written texts. A razor here, a carving there, a passing written mention. Together, these fragments slowly form a broader picture. Incomplete, certainly, but genuinely revealing all the same. Every new discovery adds another small piece to this puzzle, slowly sharpening our understanding of a very old habit. Let us return to where this story truly began. A simple, practical problem. Hair, grown long and heavy. From that problem, a slow transformation gradually unfolded. First, a sharpened stone, likely trimming hair by necessity. Then, copper razors and shaved heads across ancient Egypt. Then, elaborately curled beards marking status in Mesopotamia. Then, a symbolic first haircut marking adulthood in Greece. Then, a ceremonial first shave celebrated across ancient Rome. Then, in China, hair treated as sacred, rarely cut at all. And everywhere, hair cut short to mark deep, personal grief. Every culture reaching for very different meanings entirely. Status, purity, adulthood, respect, loss, punishment, all written quietly into something as simple as hair. This is the story of the very first haircut. A story still being uncovered, one small clue at a time. Thank you for exploring this ancient story with us. From sharpened stone blades to Rome's ceremonial first shave. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden history, leave a like. Tell us in the comments what surprised you the most. Egypt's shaved priests? Or China's sacred uncut hair? Whatever it was, thank you for exploring it with us. We'll see you in the next journey into the past. Consider how differently people once viewed a simple haircut. Something so ordinary today carried enormous weight back then. A single haircut could announce status to an entire village, or quietly signal grief without a single word being spoken. Hair became a language all its own, read at a glance. Early stone blades were not designed with hair in mind. They were originally meant for butchering meat and hide. Their sharp edges simply happened to work well on hair, too. This overlap in usefulness likely encouraged early experimentation. Obsidian, in particular, could be sharpened to an incredible edge, sharper in some cases than many metal blades that followed. This made it an excellent, if fragile, early cutting tool. Egyptian barbers carried their tools in dedicated wooden cases. Razors, combs, and tweezers all kept close at hand, giving researchers a rare, direct look at daily grooming habits. Even wealthy Egyptians visited barbers on a fairly regular basis. Personal grooming was simply part of everyday, expected life. In Mesopotamia, beard length itself could signal specific rank. Certain styles were reserved strictly for kings and nobles. Ordinary citizens wore simpler, shorter, far less elaborate beards. This visual hierarchy was instantly understood by everyone nearby. Greek temples sometimes kept records of these hair offerings, names sometimes carved beside the dedicated lock of hair, a permanent physical record of an important personal milestone, a small personal gift marking a very significant moment. Roman barbershops were not reserved for the wealthy alone. Ordinary citizens visited just as often as wealthy nobles. This made barbershops genuinely democratic, social meeting spaces. A haircut, in this sense, briefly leveled social differences. This Chinese belief endured for an extraordinarily long time, shaping attitudes toward hair for well over 1,000 years. Even style changes rarely involved actually cutting the length short. Creativity flourished, even without ever reaching for a blade. This same mourning custom appears in many other regions too. Some ancient communities near the Mediterranean followed similar practices, cutting hair short after the death of a close family member. It was deliberate, visible, and deeply emotionally meaningful. A quiet, physical way of carrying grief for all to see. Every one of these traditions relied on very human tools: a blade, a steady hand, and a shared cultural belief. Yet everyone, everywhere, eventually reached for something sharp. The reasons varied enormously. The basic act stayed remarkably similar: